All right, what is up, y'all? This is Will, and this is another episode of the Restaurant Owners Uncorked podcast brought to you by us here at Schedulefly, simple web-based restaurant employee scheduling software backed by legendary customer service, all at a low price point, no price increases since we started in 2007. We are at schedulefly.com. 30-day free trial. My personal cell phone number is right there on the website in about three places. So call me or text me. If you're on pencil and paper or Excel, we will make life a lot easier for you and for your team. If you are on another scheduling software, you may want to check what you're spending for that these days. These venture capital backed, private equity backed companies keep jacking up their fees. And for probably about a third of what you might spend there, you're going to get a simple software and absolutely phenomenal customer service. So schedulefly.com. Check us out. All right. So today we actually have we have a Schedulefly customer. We have Michael DePaolo, who is kind enough to take some time to hang out and talk today and share his story. Michael, introduce yourself, man.
Yeah, thanks, Will. Pleasure to be here. Love the software, by the way. I've been using it long time, actually. So long that I joke with my managers that my username is Michael DePaolo 04 because this is the fourth
That's
the fourth place I've used it. So great software.
love it. Love it.
Uh, yeah. So my name is Michael. I've been in the hospitality industry in one form or another for about 25 years now. All I've ever known, all I've ever done. Started out washing dishes at a Taco Bell and never looked back.
Really? Started
Yep.
out washing dishes at Taco Bell. How old were you when you started?
16 years old. My brother was the GM and gave me a job in high school washing dishes, fired me because he's, my big brother. So I went across the food court to the Nathan's Famous and got a job there despite him and ended up being the GM of the Nathan's Famous food court. So.
Oh, that's awesome. Nathan's Famous. That's the hot dog eating. That's right. That Nathan's, yeah, up there
Yeah.
for you. Why? All right. So, well, what was it, man? I mean, so obviously you were washing dishes, you get fired, you go get that job to just prove your brother and for spite or whatever, but
Yeah.
something stuck about hospitality. What was it?
Yeah, I think my hospitality career probably started before that, to be honest with you. Growing up in my house, I'm Italian, and there was just always a sense of hospitality, on Sundays, setting the table, working with my grandmother in the kitchen, serving the older members of the family. It was just kind of instilled in us. If you were to come to my house, it didn't matter if you were like passing out pamphlets or you were a relative. First thing my mother would say is, "Can I get you something to drink? Can I get you something to eat?" And that really just kind of stuck, and kind of feel like I was almost born into it. To be honest with you, I know that's kind of corny, but that's just what it is. It's the empathy, it's the connection with people. It's just being out with the guest. Just kind of stuck with me.
It's interesting because we talk about restaurants on this podcast and we talk about hospitality and what I just heard you saying, and the food obviously has to be good. That's a key part of this. We're gathering around or we're eating a meal. But I heard empathy. Hospitality is really about making people feel welcome. Isn't it? I mean, that's really what it all comes down to. We get immersed in all this stuff every day in this business, but at the end of the day, it's the simple idea, not easy to execute day after day, but the simple idea of we just need to make people feel like they're appreciated and welcome. And we need to be present and intentional with these folks when they come into our establishment. Isn't that really all boiled
Yeah,
down?
I mean there's service and then there's hospitality. Both important, two very different things. Service is the operation of the restaurant, and the hospitality is really that feeling that people get when they're at your table. And I think that there's a connection that has to be made. There's also a lot of trust that has to be built. You're giving them something that they're going to put in their body for better or for worse. And I think there's a trust factor there that you have to build in a very short amount of time. And I think that making that connection and having them feel like they're in your home is very important. It goes a long way to that. And I think that those are the successful people in the hospitality industry. It's super hard. It's a super hard job. It's long hours. You're on your feet. Sometimes you're dealing with guests that aren't very nice to you. And I think that in order for you to be successful in this industry, you have to really believe it. You have to love it. You have to want to give that. And if you don't, you won't be very successful and you won't last very long. And it's an industry that unfortunately people fall into because there's, a lot of times you don't need a degree, and you can kind of do it part time or whatever the case may be while you do something else. And I think that the real professionals are the ones that really love it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and that's a big part of the challenge is finding people that are not just in it for the degree or they're not just in it part time, but that thrive on it. And you have to, you're right, man. You have to have it. It's in your DNA. You grew up with it. It's part of who you are. If you don't have that, I feel like it can be a great business, but man, if you're not wired that way, it's a really, really challenging business because there's so much that goes on in this industry. Kind of like every aspect of the economy touches it. I mean, just in the last few years, look at, kicking off with COVID and just all that you and your peers in the industry have had to deal with, and everything costs more. And I mean, like it's a grind. And if you don't,
Burn you up.
yeah, I mean, if you don't get that sort of like that fuel from making people feel
Yeah.
welcome, it will spit you up and or chew you up and spit you out.
Yeah, yeah, that's the truth, man. That's the truth. I believe that wholeheartedly. And we saw that in COVID. I mean, a lot of people that left, and there were a lot of people, and there were some good people that left too. But I feel like, this may be a little controversial, but I feel like there may be too many restaurants in the country. There may be too many restaurant employees in the country, and people that are in it for the wrong reasons. And COVID may have been a little bit of a reset for us. And I'm hoping that the ones that survived and the ones that are still here are the ones that are in it because they love it. That's not to, you never want to wish a downfall on anybody. And the people that didn't make it through, I don't want to sound like I'm like, oh, good that they didn't, because people's livelihoods were lost. But yeah, we need to treat this as a profession, same way you would a lawyer or a doctor. And, you wouldn't just say, I'm going to go to this lawyer and they don't have a law degree. You
Yeah.
wouldn't do that. You'd never think about doing that. And I think that the hospitality industry needs to be looked at in the same light. We're professionals. We've honed our craft and we love what we do. And if you don't, you probably shouldn't be operating a restaurant or working in a restaurant.
Yeah, for sure. No doubt about it. It is an unfortunate part of this, but I mean, look, I mean, money was free for like a decade. So, like you could, I mean, you could start a restaurant if you wanted to start a restaurant, and there probably are or were too many, and that is an unfortunate thing, but it's sort of the natural cycle of this stuff. And boy, now it's quite challenging. I'm curious, like, what do y'all see? I mean, depending on where I talk to people around the country, it seems like a lot of people are a little bit down from last year. Consumers are, spending a little less. Like, what are you seeing where you are? And tell us about where you are, by the way.
Yeah, I'm right outside of Philadelphia, which has an amazing restaurant scene. I'm not from Philadelphia, but I've been here for almost 4 years now. And Philly really has an amazing restaurant scene, a lot of creativity, a lot of up and coming chefs, and a lot of old school ones too that are really doing it right. And I'm enjoying myself here. But yeah, you're right. We are seeing a little bit of a downturn. Everywhere is. And it's about bringing value to your customers. If you show your customers that there's value to what you do, they'll come back, and maybe you won't have the record years that you had before, but you'll survive, and you'll make a good living. But yeah, I would agree that definitely took a turn down from the year prior.
Philadelphia, that's I know Zahav is there. They've been we've been there for a while. I've never been there. I've heard a lot of great things
Yeah,
about.
yeah, good stuff, good stuff. Yeah, they do a good job there.
Tell me about your business and your group and what y'all are doing.
Yeah. So I run the hospitality vertical for a nonprofit. So we have a collection of nonprofits that are under one roof that work towards the benefit and betterment of Southern Chester County, which is right outside Philadelphia. And we currently have a large 46,000 square foot beer garden, event space, community gathering space, live music venue at times. We try to do it all. And we're working on some other hospitality interest on the same street. We also just opened a hotel on the same street, which is a 14-room hotel that we had renovated a old school motel, and we turned it into this really cool property that we had 14 regional artists come in and paint the rooms in a style that they chose. So it's something that brings not only warm hospitality, but it also brings an artistic lens to the property. So it's really cool seeing that come together.
Not for profit.
Yeah, everything that we do. So we are for-profit businesses in the hospitality vertical, but everything that we do funds the nonprofits. Not only ours, but we also are able to fund different ones that are outside of our organization. But I mean that's financially, and then also we act as that community gathering space at our main property to allow them to come in and fundraise, come in and meet, and we are able to bring the different nonprofits in the area together to try to brainstorm and keep us all moving in the right direction. So it's great. I get to do what I love, being with the customer, but I also know that the hard work I'm putting into it is going back to the community. So it's fun. I'm enjoying myself.
Tell me, remind me the name of the town.
Kennett Square.
Kennett Square. Yeah. So, do you know Letty's Tavern?
Yeah, I love Letty. Let me tell you, Letty's does a great job. Good friends over there. Their bar program, their food too, really great. A lot of the staff that works for me, that's kind of like their neighborhood bar, and I go with them every once in a while, and I really enjoy myself. Big shout out to Letty's.
Yeah. Well, I had them on the podcast.
Oh, get out of here. Yeah, we love them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So two, I mean, gosh, we've got customers all over the country, but there's two right there in Kennett Square. Great young couple. Had them on probably a year ago. Just seemed really cool. And then I've had other people since then that have reached out and said, "Oh yeah, Letty's." So I mean, they're doing something right. You must have a pretty cool town.
You wanted something funny. So Kennett Square is like a mile in each direction, right? Very, very small town. And it's funny that you had Letty's on and now me who works like basically down the street. That's pretty funny. But we also have Longwood Gardens, which is it may be the largest botanical garden in the world or close to the largest botanical gardens in the world, maybe 5 minutes from Kennett Square. So we get a lot of traffic, international and national traffic coming in. So yeah, the town is cool. They do a great job, activating the space, activating the town and keeping people interested when they're coming into town. So it's a cool space. Anybody that's near Philadelphia, if you haven't checked out Kennett Square, definitely come down and see us. A lot of cool stuff happening.
I was so God, I really wish I'd figured I need to make this happen another time. I wanted to try to come down and see y'all a few weeks ago. So my daughter goes to Penn State, and I mean I live down in North Carolina, but I drove up there to see her. We had to go to New York, and so we actually drove. I had a meeting in Malvern, Pennsylvania.
Yeah, it's not too far from here.
I say not too far from y'all, I don't think. Had a meeting there, so we drove there from State College. Well, we went down to Paoli. How do I pronounce that?
So me not being from here, if you get too far from my house or from my job, you're gonna lose me.
I got you. I got
Yeah.
you. Okay. Well, it was not Paoli, I think it is, but anyway, that we rode a train in. But I was looking at the map. I'm like, man, I'm not that far from Kennett Square. I wish I'd figured out how to get over there. But uh, so so you've been there for you said 4 years.
Just under. Yeah.
Where did you
Just
come? Where were you before this?
originally from New York. I started working hospitality in New York City. I worked for a gentleman named Danny Meyer, Union Square Hospitality Group. Before I left New York, I was working there and I learned some really amazing lessons about leadership there, and how to treat your employees and how to treat your guests and what hospitality really looks like when it's done right and how it can be profitable. But you could be a businessman and have terrible hospitality and fail, or you could be the most hospitable person in the world and be a terrible businessman and fail also. And Union Square really taught me, how to do that right. And then I decided, my wife and I, we decided to venture out. We're a young couple and we wanted to see what was going on around the country. So we moved to Atlanta, Georgia. And I was running the food and beverage for Porsche Cars North America. They have their headquarters in Atlanta, and I got to see hospitality in a completely different way. The guests and the employees from Atlanta versus New York are completely different. Southern hospitality is real. They taught me a lot down there, so that was a really good opportunity for me to see it in a different way. And then I had another great opportunity after that to move to New Orleans, Louisiana, to work out there. So I got to see what New Orleans brings to the table, which again, Southern hospitality, but the beverage programs and the food completely different than you would see any other place in the country. So I was able to experience that and learn in New Orleans for a while, and now I'm here.
Man, okay. Let's break this down a little bit. I didn't know Danny Meyer. I know Danny Meyer, and I have setting the table in my office. And
I do too.
that's sort of like the Bible for hospitality, it seems like. And that's actually, ironically, that's literally where we were in New York. Is Bella had something to do there, my daughter did, and then I was over there at Union Square, right above. Oh gosh, what is the main one or the first one there? Like right there on the corner. Is it Union
The
Square
first
Cafe?
one was Union Square Cafe.
Yeah, that. Yeah,
And
I
then
was
they had moved the
upstairs.
location. Yeah.
You know the guys at Branded Hospitality, Shatsy and Jimmy?
I've been gone for a while, so I don't know them personally, but I know Branded. Yeah.
Yeah, they have an office like right upstairs from that.
Yeah.
And so I was there on a podcast actually and talking to them a little bit. But so that was really cool I'd never been to Union Square. I'd been to, Manhattan, but it was Belle and I were walking through. I'm like, wait a minute, this is Union Square. I was like, Belle, there's this dude named Danny Meyer. And I was like how amazing he
Legend.
is. And so, okay, well, let's talk a little bit about that. Like what were some of the main things that you got out of your time there?
Treat your coworkers with the same respect that you would, your guests. I look at and I tell my staff this. My staff they're my guests, and then their guests are the paying customers. If I treat my staff well, they will treat the paying customers well. So whenever I have a decision to make on if need to cut back on something, I don't cut back on my staff. I don't cut back on family meal. We don't do that to make the bottom line better. I have to treat the same decision I would make for my guests. Hey, do we want to change the menu for the guest? Well, am I going to change my family meal menu for my staff? And that's just one small instance, but it speaks to the broader way I look at my staff. And I think I definitely learned that over there. I also learned that you hire hard. You wait and you find the right person, even if that means doing the job yourself for a while. If I have to bartend for a month because I can't find a qualified bartender, or more importantly, a bartender that I think would fit with the culture, then I have to bartend for a month. And that's the burden that I'm going to bear, because I know in the long run, hiring the right person culturally is extremely important. We hire for the soft skills. I tell people in interviews, you could be a crappy bartender, but a really good human, and I can teach you how to be a good bartender. I can't
Yep.
teach you how to be a good human. And if you're not a good human, you're not going to last. I don't care if you're the best bartender in the world, you're not going to last here. You'll be out because the staff won't allow for it.
Yes.
So I learned all those lessons over there.
Okay. I had there was a guy told me this years ago when I first started this podcast. By the way, so just so you know, I mean, I've worked in restaurants as a kid, as a teenager, like making salsa and bussing tables, but I never um, have owned a restaurant. I've never run a restaurant and did not have anywhere near the appreciation for what it takes to run a restaurant until we started doing this podcast. And really, this podcast was like, I mean, it was like 2008 or nine when I started recording interviews with owners, and we would actually embed the files into our blog because there was no podcast or whatever, like really back then. And then we used the best content to create a book called Restaurant Owners Uncorked. And two things from that. We self-published this book in like 2010. One of those things is, even then, setting the table was coming up in the conversations. Danny Meyer was coming up in the conversations. But the other thing was, I really developed a very profound respect for what it takes to own and run restaurants successfully. I did not have a clue how hard it is until I started speaking to all these folks and learning what goes into every single day, all the things that can go right and can go wrong, and all the changes that can happen any day, and the things that you can't plan for that happen. And it's an incredible skill set. That's why I always say, and I think you nailed it. Like, if you didn't have this empathetic, hospitality driven gene in your DNA, it just, you can't do it in this business. I don't think. So I learned that, and I got a lot of respect for people that are successful in this business and that run restaurants in this business, in this industry. And there was a guy who was telling me, he said, Will, you might be, it was exactly what you just said, Michael. He said he had a coffee shop out in Gilbert, Arizona. He's like, you could be the best barista like you could win the world barista championship. You're the best in the world. But if you don't love people more than you love that coffee you make, I'm never going to hire you because that's like, if you don't serve from that servant's heart, you won't make it here.
Well, I mean, we're there doing it for them. You know,
Yes.
we're not doing it for the bean. We're not doing it for the coffee bean, man. Like the coffee bean doesn't know if we're good or not. It's for the customer,
Yeah,
you
that's
know?
right.
And we're doing it, and we have a job to do. We have a responsibility to society. It's bigger than that, especially after COVID, with the third space is being taken away from everybody during COVID. When people would go and they would be in their house all day and without the opportunity to get out and be in society. And it broke society doing that for good reason. Obviously, we had to survive, right? But it broke society, and we have a responsibility in the restaurant industry for getting people out, getting them socialized, and getting them acclimated to being in society. And I see it years after COVID, people that don't understand how to act in society anymore. And we have a responsibility to provide that space, that safe space for them to come out, have conversation, be with your community. And I don't care how good your cup of coffee is, if you're not providing that space and that feeling to them that they can be who they want to be out in that space, doesn't matter how good your coffee is. And I think the customers feel it. And I think that's why we're successful. And that's why they keep coming back and keeps choosing to spend their money with us as opposed to someone else.
You are operating on a level that I really respect, man. I'm so
I
glad that you
appreciate that.
said what you just said. Yeah, yeah. Listen, I think that okay, why is your town great? Why is Kennett Square great? Like if you start asking people like why is this a cool town? There's no way they're gonna get through like their top three or four reasons without talking about places like yours, places like I think that independent restaurants, hospitality businesses are a absolute key to the fabric of any great city or town. You mentioned Philadelphia. Philadelphia has a vibrant hospitality scene. Like you can't go, why is this place great? If somebody's like, oh, I love this place, why? Well, they're going to start talking about the independent restaurants and hospitality business very quickly because
So,
whether we recognize it or not, and I think we recognize it a lot more during COVID. When we couldn't go to our favorite places, we were like, wait a minute, no, like I need that place to survive because that's where I go to celebrate. That's where I go to mourn. That's where I go to, revive myself. That's where I go to meet friends. And it's, I mean, no disrespect to like big chains and things like that. They have their place, but like Kennett Square is not a great place because it's got an outback, like it's just it's great because of these businesses that are run with passion and love and care for the community and what you just talked about. It's a bigger idea. It's like this is important to our society as a whole. And gosh, man, we need more people that think like you do, Michael, because when you lead that way and you have that vision, um, you inspire me to think that way and to want to be a part of that. So I'm so glad to hear you articulate it the way that you do, because that's something that will wake you up every day when you think about it that way. Yes, it's work. Yes, it's hard. But if you have that as your fuel and your motivation and what burns fuels your fire, you can do this for the rest of your life, I think, because you're operating at a higher level. It's something that's like really important and that matters to our culture and to our society.
yeah, I agree, and that's what gets me out of bed. I mean, it's not the paycheck, it's knowing that we're doing something, we're doing something good. I mean, I feel like I'm fairly smart person. I could probably be successful in a couple of different industries if I really put my heart into it, but nothing that I think is going to matter to the community as much as this. And I believe that. And I hope that my staff sees that in me, and I hope that translates into them, and that people that are getting into the hospitality industry understand it's very hard work. It is. And it's a lot of times a thankless job. That's true. But it matters, and whether people recognize it and say thank you or not, you matter in someone's life. When they leave your restaurant, they feel a little bit better than when they got there, and that's important.
That's important. I think that I always say that hey, look at any natural disaster, for example. LA fires, the floods down here in the North Carolina mountains. You have your first responders. You know who's always there too? Restaurant people, independent
Absolutely.
restaurant people that are out there. They're giving their time, they're giving their food, they're giving their money, they're giving their supplies. They're saying like they're going to the first responders, come in, we'll take care. Like they're always so community focused, and they're such a critical part of any great community. And you see that over and over. And well, okay, so you leave New York, you go to Atlanta. Now that's a big freaking change, dude. Like for a dude who grew up in
Yeah.
New York, and like you go down to Atlanta. I mean, Atlanta is it's a big city in the South. It's like, it's like a tiny little blip compared to New York. But I mean, it's a big city down here in the South. So it's got good culture, and it's got good bones, and it's got good history. But you mentioned Southern hospitality, and as a Southerner, I love hearing when somebody comes from outside the South and says, "Hey, that's real." So talk a little bit about what you learned down there in Atlanta.
Yeah. So Atlanta was a huge change. The things that motivate staff in New York are extremely different than the things that motivate staff in the South. And I didn't know that. I was a young man in my career as a leader and as a manager, and when I got there, there was a bit of a learning curve. Not gonna lie, I was not as successful as I was in New York right out of the gate. I would come into work in the morning, and I didn't understand that it was my job to go to every employee and ask them how is your day? How is your family? Understanding that these people have lives outside of work, and I need to check in on that, because that's what Southerners do. And I didn't know that coming from New York. And New York is very fast paced. It's more about getting the message across, and people are very responsive to that in New York. They actually respect it in New York. They're like, hey, I got a lot to do. Let's go. Subway's moving. And in the South, it's like, no way, man, no way. And as soon as I understood that, I was able to connect with my staff better. And same thing with the guests. I mean, touching tables, we always did it in New York, of course, you have to. But in the South, it's even more so. You have to touch the tables, and you have to really like kind of hang and make that like really good connection with the guest. And I think that it made me a more well-rounded human, and definitely a more well-rounded restaurateur, or restaurant operator. So when I got to Atlanta, I feel like was still kind of coming into its own in the restaurant scene. I think there was a lot of people in Atlanta that were very hungry for cutting edge, techniques, and really trying to recreate restaurants in a different way. But not all of them were successful at that time. And I was a little like, man, like Atlanta, like you're doing well. You're seeing a lot of things on Instagram, but when it comes to the technique, it's just not there. And then as I was there for over 3 years, and I saw this transition where Atlanta really started coming into its own, and the restaurants are phenomenal now. I go back as much as I can. I follow a soccer team out there, Atlanta United, and I'm back pretty regularly. And I got to tell you, it's one of the better food scenes in the country at this point, and they're doing it their way. They're absolutely like we're staying true to who we are as people from Atlanta, and but the restaurants are phenomenal. So I have all the love and respect for Atlanta. Honestly, I could see myself back there one day. So yeah, big shout out to Atlanta. Love it. I'll be back soon.
Who are some of the groups that you admire down there?
It's not the big groups that I admire. It's the scrappy chef that just opens up a sandwich shop. You know, I mean,
Yeah.
there are some major players out there. I mean, you go to Atlas, and it's world class. But really the food that you're going to see, like the little scrappy shops, is where it's at. There's a place called Banshee out there that's outstanding, and you walk in there, and you would it's just your regular restaurant, but you sit down, and those flavors and those new techniques are all over the plate. So I love it.
Got it. Got it. And then so then you went from there to New Orleans. What an amazing,
What a
culture
city.
and just what a city, and
What a city.
what a unique place. I mean, it is its own.
Oh yeah, culturally. I mean, and it's not far. You could drive from Atlanta to New Orleans pretty easy, and I did a bunch of times. But completely different world. The people, the culture, like the language is different. The way people move is different, and they're just a really unique bunch of people. It's great. I loved it, and I learned about cocktails. I mean, I did
Yeah.
bartending. Like I said, now I'm bartending 25 years. but I knew nothing about cocktails until I got to New Orleans. They showed me things and techniques and drinks that I had never even thought about. So I feel like I got a really good education there as far as cocktails go. But while I love the city and I love partying there, it's a hard place to work because there's so much going on in the streets. That you want to be out there, you want to be with the people, you don't want to be behind a desk, or you don't want to be, working a shift. And nobody does. It's a difficult place to run a business because of that. But yeah, but I definitely got a different kind of education. I feel like I learned a lot about people in Atlanta, and I learned a lot about the craft in New Orleans.
New Orleans.
Yeah.
What's your pleasure? Are you a bourbon dude, or what do you like?
I'm a whiskey guy. Yeah, absolutely. I would have to say I'm a bourbon guy, but I've just been experimenting with ryes for the last maybe 6 months. Just really doing a deep dive into ryes. I'm kind of on a rye kick, but I like to change with the seasons. So we're getting into summer now, so the rums and the tequilas will come out, and in the winter it's all whiskey.
In the winter, it's all whiskey.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have a particular? I know you said rye, but if you, like outside of the U.S., Japanese, Scotch, any kind of.
Yeah, I definitely love. I like if you're talking about Scotch, it's got to be super smoky and peaty and earthy and dirty. I love that those big flavors.
That's like was it like the Ile or
Yeah.
whatever?
Yep.
Yeah,
Absolutely. And if you talk, I mean, I think what they've done in Japan with whiskey is this. I mean, they've taken what I consider that like Japan is so technical in everything that they
yeah,
do and so precise in everything that they do, and they've taken that kind of thinking and really come up with some amazing whiskeys, which I'm super happy about. So yeah, I think that there's something to be said for people that really hone their craft and take it serious and put their best foot forward. I think it's phenomenal what they're doing. So, but I like to get to Kentucky once a year and taste as much as I can and learn as much as I can. But yeah, whiskey around the world is good for me. Yeah.
Have you ever heard of a brand called Pinhook?
I haven't.
Check it out. One of my buddies is a co-founder of that, and but the guy, their like master blender, is a guy named Sean Josephs, and he lives down in New Orleans. Was in New York for a long time. Lives in New Orleans, and Pinhook. It's a horse racing term, and so when they have like all their different bottles are based on a specific horse, and so it's pretty cool little story.
I'm gonna check it out.
So what else is on your mind? What else should we talk about that we haven't talked about yet, man? This has been a
Uh,
cool conversation. Yeah.
yeah, I feel like we've covered a bunch.
Oh, you got on your Atlanta, you got your soccer thing on right now.
Dude, that's right. Yeah, absolutely. 100%. Yeah, and I wasn't a soccer fan until I went to Atlanta. And it just happens that they got their team while I was down there, and I just the camaraderie of the fans and the culture in general, it's very organic, and really fell in love with the soccer scene. And Atlanta United is my team. So yeah.
Love it. Love it. How are they doing? Are they good this year?
Yeah, so they've struggled the last few years. They've struggled probably a little more than the last few years.
Yeah.
But this year we have a new coach. We have a lot of new players. We actually have one of our favorite players from our first couple of years in existence. He came back this year to play, so everybody's really excited. First, we're 3 matches in, and we have a win, a loss, and a draw.
Okay.
So take that for what it is. I think we still need to gel a little bit, but I think we're going to be okay.
What is your brother doing these days? Is he still
My brother is in IT.
okay?
He went to computers. Yeah. I love my brother, but I don't think he has the patience for this business.
Ah, he fired his little brother, man. He
Yeah.
didn't have what it took, man.
Yeah.
Instead of molding you and leading you, he fired you, and I think that's funny, man. Well, Michael, I love the way it's a really inspiring. I'm just it, man. You just made my day talking about this industry and this business. I've really been very grateful for 18 years of our company of Schedule Fly serving this industry, and my respect grows for this industry every year. I watched what y'all did during COVID, and you pivoted and you adjusted and you dealt with like freaking daily changes and like local ordinances, and just y'all do things that are really hard that would put a lot of people under if they don't have the patience, like other or like me, to do what you do. You deal with them with a smile on your face, and it's hard. And I appreciate the industry immensely, and I'm grateful that our business has a chance to serve y'all because I tell my friends all the time, there's no better. There's literally not a better group of people to serve than the hospitality industry. It's the best freaking I mean, dude, in 18 years, I can count on one hand two people in 18 years that I was like, man, that person's kind of a jerk. Like, I mean, that called us or, you know what I mean? Like, I mean,
Yeah.
just, it's an incredible group of freaking people to have. So I feel like we're so incredibly fortunate. And I feel very lucky to be able to have the chance to talk to folks like you and share these stories. So just thank you.
So, Will, I appreciate that. I really do. And if I could, if there's one thing, if you're a restaurateur or you're an operator, or even in the larger companies, if you hear this and you hear me, know that you can be successful without having to shortchange your staff. You don't have to cut the corners when it comes to that. You don't have to provide a bad working environment or a bad, if you're a chef, you don't have to provide a bad culture in order to be successful. There's a misconception in the industry that because food prices are so high and because the cost to run a restaurant is so high that you have to shortchange your staff in order to make that up. And it's not true. It's the opposite. We are doing well. We are successful. I've been successful now for a long time. And I believe it's because I don't do those things. And I want the operators in this industry to know that you may have to figure it out a little bit, but in the long run, you will be better. You will be more financially stable if you do it the right way.
Love that. So we know Setting the Table is a great book to read. Are there other ones, like other books or other things like people that they should follow or
Yeah,
podcasts?
Will Guidara from
Yeah.
the same group, and that should tell you something right there. Danny, I mean, he probably set out a whole lot of people. And I don't put myself on the level with a Will or some of those other top people that came out of that school, but we're out there and we're getting our hands in it and we're making it a better place for the culture and for the industry. But yeah, follow Will, start there and see where it goes, and then just start forming your own opinions about this stuff and start looking at your P&L in a different way, and if you don't worry about shortchanging your guest or shortchanging your staff, then you'll have the money there to do some really cool things, so yeah, that's all I got.
Will Guidara, so he wrote Unreasonable Hospitality. He's not still involved with 11 Madison Park, is he?
No, he left. He sold his stake in it. I mean, I don't know the details of it. Will and I are friends, but yeah, he's not there anymore. I know that.
Okay. But so Unreasonable Hospitality is a book that's gotten a lot of acclaim. A lot of people are reading that. I've heard great things about it. Ironically, that's pretty funny that it came around to this because I'm not kidding. An hour and a half ago, I texted Will Guidara to ask him when we could try to get him on this podcast. I got introduced to him by a guy, another restaurant owner who's from down in Mississippi, Robert St. John, who is on here and he knows Will and he got me connected with Will. And sure enough, so hopefully we'll get him on here. So 11 Madison Park is actually a customer of ours. It has been for like a really long
Nice
time.
restaurant.
Yeah, great place I hear.
If you get Will on, let him know that I said that there's a lot of operators that are watching him,
Yeah.
and we're doing what he's saying, and it's working. It's working.
I'll tell him that. I actually said I'm going to email you and try to find a date. I'll tell him that I just talked to you and that you were saying that. We were just talking. That's perfect, man. That's awesome. Well, Michael, thank you for your time. Thank you for your business. Thank your team as well. Please, for happy to serve y'all. Appreciate the opportunity. This is a freaking great episode, dude. Love what you're
Well,
doing.
man, I appreciate you, Will. I'll talk to you soon.
All right, man. See you.